We gonna play the game, the PlayStation all day with the Metal Gear Solid to Tekken 3 and from Omega Boost to Resident Evil. Just play for the fun, cause we got it going on.
Hello, Ryan here with the first episode of Enos Lives. This is the, Nintendo Fun Club podcast PlayStation series of Let's Plays. So if you are familiar with, me, I once had a website up until recently called Enos Lives, and it originally started as a way to talk about my favorite PS1 games and interesting PS1 games. And I couldn't ever really figure out what to do with that website. We tried podcasts, we tried blog posts, and it never really came together the way I wanted it to. So, I'm thinking that now that I've been doing more kind of Let's Plays and that sort of thing, that maybe it could return in some capacity, via, YouTube Let's Plays. So, we'll see how this works. This is just kind of a trial. I do have a lot of fondness for the original PlayStation. It's one of my favorite game consoles of all time, and I also love everything kind of in between, up to and including the PS4 Pro. So and I figure, there's no better place for me to start this series than with the original Ridge Racer. This was the first game I ever played on a PlayStation, and I still love it today. This isn't exactly, right now I have an original Ridge Racer 1 disc in a PlayStation 3. That's what I'm recording from, and this is not really the best way to play this game. I would say it's better to play with the 60 frames per second disc that came with R4, or even, Ridge Racer Revolution is essentially the first Ridge Racer game with just a little better. But, for the sake of nostalgia and just a good starting off point, I wanted to play my original Ridge Racer disc. It's one that came in the big box, the tall boy, I just love this game a lot. I first played it at a K's Merchandise, which was a weird furniture department store in Rockford, Illinois, and I remember it was the first time I'd ever seen a PlayStation console, and they basically just had it hooked up to a TV, sitting on top of a dresser or something. It was really weird and really I don't know, almost unassuming for how the impact that PlayStation would have eventually on the gaming industry and popular culture worldwide, as a whole. But I guess at the time, Sony was just not a force in video games, and I don't know if I remember, as in the hype leading up to the next generation of consoles around that time. At least within my circles, my friends and I were talking about the Ultra 64, which would become the Nintendo 64, and the Saturn, because, at that point, it was Nintendo and Sega who dominated the console market. So, you know, it's like, oh, Sony's making a console? That's interesting. But at this point, we had seen, you know, other companies kind of jump in and try to get in on the console business, especially with CDs. Like we had seen, you know, 3DO and, you know, we'd see Philips with the CDI and all that. And so I think that was kind of the impression people may have gotten from Sony. I mean, they were certainly not on my radar. The PlayStation was not on my radar when it launched. I mean, it wasn't until they started getting, you know, my favorite Nintendo franchises on their hardware, like Final Fantasy and Castlevania, is when I really started taking notice. But you know, that wouldn't be until like a couple years in. So yeah, the first time it was just this weird looking console sitting there on a dresser with a TV hooked up, and you know, I just walked up and Ridge Racer was the game that was playing, and I played it, and you know, it kind of really impressed me. I had never played a 3D game like this before. You know, I had played Star Fox on SNES at this point, and that was the closest thing to a 3D game I'd played, I believe. I mean, I guess Doom, but that doesn't quite count. I mean, I guess it does. So, yeah, I suppose I had played 3D games, but I had never played a 3D game that felt as, you know, defined as Ridge Racer. Like, you know, I remember seeing this for the first time, and it doesn't look like much now, but when I did see it for the first time, I was just, it felt like a real 3D world I was racing through, and, like, the music was just really cool with, you know, I think with game music up to this point, we had kind of, you know, it had mostly been like prog rock, metal, you know, symphonic type stuff, all, you know, through the sound channels available in the consoles. But, you know, and I don't know if this is something I noticed at the time when I first played the game, but, you know, playing it again subsequent times, I started noticing, like, this is like cool electronic music. Like, this feels fresh and interesting in the way that, you know, I guess 90s techno felt in the early to mid 90s. And that's, you know, techno's kind of the type of music that really, for me, defines a lot about the original PlayStation, because obviously the Wipeout series, like, the music in those games was huge, and it was a lot of, like, established electronic artists. So that's kind of what I associate with this game and the PlayStation. But did a little better that time. Still didn't quite finish where I wanted to, but it's not bad. So yeah, this game still, like, it's really it's pretty primitive. Obviously it's not the prettiest game, and, you know, even like subsequent entries on the PlayStation, like, you know, Ridge Racer Revolution would make some visual improvements, and then Ray Tracer would kind of take it to the next level. And, you know, R4 is one of the best, if not the best looking 3D games on the PlayStation. So the visual style would, like the visual quality, technical quality would improve, but yeah, even at its kind of humble beginnings here, I still think it's a great, playing and a great sounding game even today. So, all right, well, I guess this wraps up this inaugural episode of Enos Lives. We'll see how this goes, and I mean, I have a huge collection of PS1 games that that could be pretty fun to record some Let's Plays of, maybe wax nostalgic about a bit, and then who knows, maybe I'll get into some more modern stuff. I don't know, but that's kind of where we're at for right now. So thank you for tuning in. You can find me on Twitter at BrawnDwarf, BrawnDwarf, and you can check out our blog and podcast over at NintendoFunClubPodcast.com. All right, well, thank you again for tuning in, and I will catch you next time. Goodbye.